Meditation and Spiritual Life, Swami Yatiswarananda, Chapter 8, The Guru and Spiritual Guidance. Need for training in spiritual life. Now, training will require a trainer, guru, and the guidance, the training. A disciple of the great Chinese mystic philosopher Lao Tzu narrates the following story. A young man joined the gang of a robber chief named Chi. One day, the young apprentice asked his leader, "Can the Tao, the right way, be found in thieving?" And Chi replied, "Pray, tell me of anything in which there is no Tao, a law, or right way." In thieving, there is the wisdom by which the booty is located, the courage of going in first, the heroism of coming out last, the insight of calculating the chances of success. Finally, there is justice in dividing the spoils equitably among the robbers. There never was a successful thief who did not possess these five qualities. Now, there are principles to be learned in every activity of life. Even in thieving, an apprentice in any profession needs training. This is all the more true of spiritual life. The disciple of Lao Tzu continues, "The doctrine of the wise is equally indispensable to the good man and to the robber. Since good men are few and bad men are in the majority, the good the sages do in the world is little, and the evil done by the rest is great." In the course of my travels in the West, I have been amazed at the amount of energy which is constantly expended on destructive activities. How many soldiers, pilots, technicians, and even scientists are being trained for war? Why can't even a fraction of the same time and energy be used for training in the spirit, in making ourselves receptive to divine illumination, bliss, and peace? The ideal which the great sages of the Upanishads place before us as the goal of life is self realization. But this ideal cannot be realized without spiritual awakening. However, in the religious field, we see too much of ritual and ceremonial and too little of the true spiritual awakening. Real religion, which is self realization, has for this reason become discredited. And there is now an overabundance of religious pretenders who claim supernatural powers and promise easy passports to heaven, while parasites, unwilling to strive for moral purity, want to attain salvation easily. The highest goal can be shown only by a person who has attained it, or by one who has at least gone very near it. Regarding the importance of right guidance in spiritual life, the Upanishads declare, "Many do not hear about the self. Many others, though they hear of it, do not understand it. Wonderful is he who speaks of it. Wonderful is he who learns of it. Blessed is he who, taught by a good teacher, is able to realize it." It's in Katha Upanishad. Shravannayapi बहुभिर्यो न लभ्यः शृण्वन्तोऽपि बहवो यं न विद्युः आश्चर्यवक्ता कुशलोऽस्य लब्धा आश्चर्योज्ञाता कुशलानुशिष्टः. The truth of the self cannot be fully understood when taught by an inferior person, for there are different opinions regarding it. Subtler than the subtlest is the self, beyond all logic. When taught by a teacher who has realized himself as one with the Brahman, a person attains the goal and becomes free from transmigration. Same Kathopanishad. न नरेणावरेण प्रोक्त एष सुविज्ञेयो बहुधा चिन्त्यमानः अनन्यप्रोक्ते गतिरत्र नास्ति अणियान् ह्यतर्क ह्यतर्क्यम् अनुप्रमाणात्. Then let a man devoted to spiritual life examine carefully the ephemeral nature of heavenly enjoyment. To know the eternal, let him humbly approach a guru established in Brahman and well versed in the scriptures. To a disciple who approaches reverently, who is tranquil and self controlled, the wise teacher gives that knowledge faithfully and without stint, by which is known the truly existing changeless self. It's in Mundaka Upanishad. Function of the Guru. What does self realization mean? It means the union of the individual spirit with the Supreme Spirit. When ignorance, the veil, the covering is removed, this realization happens that the individual spirit is actually the Supreme. After passing through various experiences and sufferings in life, the individual soul draws closer to the oversoul and finally realizes its oneness with it. The Upanishad gives a picturesque description of this process. It's in Mundaka Upanishad. Two birds of great plumage, inseparable companions, are perched on the branches of the same tree. One of them tastes the sweet and the bitter fruits of the tree. The other, tasting neither, calmly observes. The individual self, deluded by forgetfulness of its real divine nature, gets involved in worldly life and suffers. But when it recognizes the worshipful Lord as its own true self and beholds his glory, it becomes liberated from sorrow. This is a famous example given where there's a tree and there are two birds in it. One bird is sitting at the top, and the bird below, he hops from branch to branch and eats the fruits. Some fruit, when it eats, is so sweet and the bird is so happy and joyous and dancing. Then when it feels hungry again, then again it hops to another branch, and when it eats the fruits, it gets a very bitter tasting fruit and is so upset about it. Like this, days pass by, and every day, curiously, he'd observe the bird sitting on top of the tree, always pristine, without hopping here and there, simply silent, blissful, not overexcited, not upset. And he was very curious. Slowly, slowly, as days passed by, it started finishing off all the fruits and slowly started going upwards and upwards, and finally when it reached the highest, realized there was no bird at the top. It was himself, his own reflection. He realized that the more it goes on hopping and tasting the fruits, it is bound by happiness and sorrow. But at once, when it leaves all those lusting for fruit, it becomes calm. And that's the allegory of the Upanishadic example. We have forgotten our true divine essence, so instead of moving closer to God, we get drowned in worldly existence more and more. Somebody must remind us of our real nature. He who does this is the Guru or spiritual teacher. The function of the teacher is to awaken the disciple from his age long sleep and show him the way to the divine. The Guru is not like the Christian priest who stands between man and God. The word Guru etymologically means a spiritual guide who removes darkness and brings light. गुकारोन्धकरस्तु ऋकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिवर्त्या तु गुरुरित्यभिधीयते. That means gukar, andhakarastu. So, remover of the andhakar. Rukar, tat nivartakaha. Tannivartakaha. Remover of the gukar. So, he helps us to dehypnotize ourselves by removing the false notions we have been entertaining about ourselves. In one of his parables, Sri Ramakrishna speaks of a tiger sheep. Once a tigress attacked a flock of sheep, but as the shepherd resisted, she fell on her side, gave birth to a cub, and died. The shepherd took pity on the little creature and raised it along with the flock. The little tiger drank sheep's milk and learned to bleat and eat grass like sheep. Years later, another tiger attacked the same flock and was astonished to see a tiger behaving like a sheep. He caught hold of the tiger sheep, dragged him to a pool, and forced him to look at his reflection in the water. Then the old tiger put a piece of meat into the mouth of the young tiger sheep and told him that he was not a sheep but a real tiger. Thereupon, the tiger sheep gave up his sheep consciousness and regained his real tiger consciousness. Now, you see this word regained. So, the tiger is not transformed, it just disidentified with the false identification and realizes real nature. Swami Brahmananda used to liken the teacher to a king's minister. A poor man requests the minister to grant him an audience with the king, who lives in a palace with 7 gates. The minister grants his request, the guru, and leads him through the gates one after another. At each gate there stands a richly dressed officer, and each time the poor man asks the minister if that is the king. The minister answers no each time, until they have passed the 7th gate and have come to the presence of the king seated there in all his regal splendor. Then the poor man does not ask any more question. What he needed was someone who could guide him through the gates and corridors of the palace. Now, before he reaches and sees the king, he immediately realizes that that is the king. He needs not ask for confirmation if that is the king, because it becomes so self evident. But before that, as and when he passed through different gates, doubt assails, which is obvious, and there the Guru's role is crucial. So it is with the Guru, says Swami Brahmananda. Like the king's minister, he leads the disciple through the different stages of spiritual unfoldment until he leaves him with the Lord. The human personality is like a big palace with buildings and courtyards, one within another. The Supreme Spirit comes to us in the form of a teacher, making us realize that we are not the physical body, not the mind, not the feelings, ideas, and emotions, but the Spirit eternal. When we travel to an unknown country, it is wise to have a guide who knows the way. The Guru is the guide who leads us to our destination and leaves us there.